Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new show on Sattology. And today we're talking something totally different. We want to take stock of what is happening in Bharat in terms of their current fight with China, who stands there and how strong they are, and how strong India is against the communist country of China. Thank you. So let us all welcome a great speaker and a very famous YouTube video. You have seen his many videos, very famous person and defense analyst Shri NK from Delhi. So Namaskar NK ji, welcome.
Namaskar, Namaskar.
And so you have said so many videos and daily your videos are coming and very
Yes,
we have seen a lot of videos, very informative. So in today's scenario, between Indian armed forces and Chinese Communist Party's People Liberation Army, who is coming equal? Who is stronger between the two right now?
I cannot say who is stronger. I think it's a very balanced match between Indian Army and the PLA. PLA may be having better equipment, but Indian Army is well prepared. Indian Army has the capability to use all kinds of weapons that they have, but the Chinese lack that capability. Indian Army is brave. They are with their tails up. Chinese Army is demoralized, especially after the incident of June 15, 2020. So I think that in all terms, India is in a much better position than the PLA.
Awesome. And Dr. Swami and other many of the people who were saying that India should open up the naval side also and must take an aggression into China. So how
You
is
see,
that
huh,
visible?
we do not need to be aggressive towards China in the sea because we are not facing the Chinese at the sea. At sea, you can say South China Sea, it is ASEAN countries, Japan, Korea, and the US who are there. We are not in the South China Sea. So we cannot be aggressive towards China in the South China Sea. We are sitting in the Indian Ocean and we will wait for China to come out of the South China Sea and then tackle them. And the only thing is that at the present situation, Chinese cannot come out of the South China Sea because the US Navy is blocking them. So we are behind the lines. We cannot be aggressive to South China Sea. And why should we go and fight with the Chinese in the South China Sea? Let the countries in the region, they fight with the Chinese. Let the US, who is sitting before India, let them do the fighting. Let the Chinese attack them. And if China comes out of the South China Sea into Indian Ocean, then we will tackle them. And they won't be able to come out of that. Because otherwise also, I think I must have told you on my videos also, China, if they have to come out of that South China Sea, because their trade passes through Indian Ocean. 90% of their trade passes through Indian Ocean, and that through Malacca Strait, that is 3.5 kilometer wide. At the mouth of Malacca Strait, we have our Andaman Nicobar Island. And this Andaman Nicobar Island, India has a tri-service headquarters over there. And now, on June 4, 2020, India and Australia had signed an agreement to assist each other in the sea. Australia will be using our that was a specifically it has been mentioned in that agreement that Australia can use our Andaman Nicobar Islands and we can use Australia's Cocos Island. Means we will be blocking the Chinese from entering the Indian Ocean and exit of the Chinese from the Pacific. So we are not facing China. The Chinese are being faced by the Southeast ASEAN countries and the US. If they come out of that, then we will be standing there.
But don't you think that it is an important strategy for India to help United States when United States and Israel and all these people or countries are helping India?
Actually, I think there is already understanding between India and the US. If the agreement between India and Australia has taken place at this critical juncture, it means it is US behind them. and US is not assisting India. Either US is standing before India and India will be behind them. That's the strategy. Now, US has their seventh fleet is already in the already in the South China Sea and the Pacific, and they comprise at least 80 warships, including three aircraft carriers, and they are with Japan on the eastern side of the South China Sea. And their fifth fleet, US fifth fleet, it is likely to come to the Indian Ocean to block them from entering the Indian Ocean. And the only thing is that their intention of the Americans is the strategy is that to keep China inside the South China Sea. And already US and ASEAN countries, they are patrolling the South China Sea. And behind US lines, India is there. And I tell you one thing, that this is the strategy between all these countries, rather specifically between India, US, Japan, Korea, and Australia. And ASEAN countries are also participating in them. Of course, their navies are very weak. But this is all a combined effort. There's no doubt about it that US is fighting alone or India is fighting. US is in front of India in the South China Sea, in the ocean, and India is facing China at the border. And this is having a very bad effect and demoralizing effect on the Chinese.
I think Chinese are to be blamed. They picked a fight with everyone after coronavirus, and in many ways, they.
That's not the thing. That is not the thing. The Chinese had been disturbing all the countries in the in the South China Sea. Now, after India, because nobody was in a position to confront the Chinese, only India in the month of June confronted the Chinese at the border, and the world is surprised at that, because China had been projecting itself as a big power, superpower, major power. And when the Indian army stood before them at Ladakh, so the world is watching. Nobody has stood them before the Chinese. So the world is watching. Japan has come up, South Korea has come up, Taiwan has come up, even this Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, and even the Philippines. Of course, besides that, Vietnam is there. So all they have combined, and they are impressed by whatever India is doing.
So what happens if Pakistan? It seems that many bases of Pakistan are taken over by the Chinese forces, and they are also attacking India at the same time in Kashmir.
That was an understanding between China and Pakistan that they will cause two-front war against India, and it is not a planning of today. India knows it, and that's why India had been preparing for that. But the negative aspect of this is that the Congress government during the last 10 years did nothing to strengthen India. Anyhow, whatever PM Modi is there, because now we have 4 squadrons of Air Force by this time, but we have 36 squadrons. Now, in addition to that, we are getting squadrons from MiG-29 and Sukhoi 30. In addition to that, in the month of July, by the month of this year, we will be getting 6 planes from France. And in addition to that, India has started manufacturing its own planes, Tejas. The first squadron is already in place, and the second squadron is also coming. So we are more or less in the same position, and we anticipated that. But the Chinese, when they attacked our posts in the border, we destroyed number of their posts. I think 15 posts Indian Army has destroyed during the past 2 weeks, and more besides that, daily we have been killing 5 to 7 militants in Jammu and Kashmir. So India is not at all disturbed, and India can tackle that both. But on the other hand, China wanted to have a two-way attack on India, and they also brought in Nepal with that. But on the other hand, you see, China is facing war against it from 10 countries, at the same time. ASEAN countries, Japan, Korea, US, Australia, and India. So it is the position that the strategy of the Chinese has backfired on the Chinese only.
No, I think you're right. And Kesuji, like if at all the war happens now, so there is a northeast Ladakh and Leh area, and then there is a northeast area which is Arunachal Pradesh. So is Indian Army and armed forces fully able to protect the entire Chinese border against China? Indian border.
Totally. Totally, I think. Because you see, during the past few years, India has raised an additional force of 90,000 soldiers of Mountain Division. What we need to fight against China is the Mountain Divisions, because that area from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh, that is a mountainous region with very low temperatures and rain, etc. Everything is there. So Mountain Division is the best to deal with that situation. Now today, India has 2.5 lakh army who can operate in the mountainous region. In Ladakh, you must have seen few days back that the temperature, when our 20 soldiers died, 17 of them died because of the cold weather. So because they were injured also, and that was actually China backstabbed India. But India took the lives of 59 Chinese when they were not prepared. Now, if the war comes, I tell you one thing, one more thing I would like to tell you, that India has 3 ALGs in Leh Ladakh. Besides that, at this in Ladakh region they have, and besides that, India has 8 ALGs in Arunachal Pradesh, advanced landing grounds. They are at Mechuka, Tooting, Along, Walong, Tawang, and all those places. So India is not the India of 1962. What our army needs, they needs the arms to fight, which we didn't have in 62. They want the regular supply of rations and other things, which we have already done, because at these ALGs, the globe masters that we took up from America, they were taking 2 flights per day to drop arms, ammunition, tanks, ration, and everything. So we are very well prepared to deal with China for any kind of situation. If China does the same thing as it did on 15th of June, then we have special commandos posted at sensitive points. Even in Indian intelligence, they have posted some khambas from Tibet, who are big fighters, who are great fighters. And India has the best commandos to fight any kind of situation, to deal with any kind of situation in the hilly region. So we are very well prepared to deal with China, and we certain shortcomings that we have, because we had ordered a lot of things. We had ordered Apache helicopters from US. We had signed deals for procurement of Chinook helicopters, which were supplied to India, but a lot of them are still to be supplied. And I think the US is trying to deliver those leftovers very soon. Similarly, Indian delegation is right now in Israel. They are procuring a lot of things that Indian Army did. As I told you, the Congress spoiled the whole situation. They didn't purchase anything. They played into the Chinese game plan deliberately, I think. So Russia also has promised us to give everything that we needed, we wanted. We are getting spare parts from Russia. We are getting missiles. We are getting missile launchers. We are getting assault rifles. We are getting MiG-29 and Sukhoi 30 and everything that we want. Similar is the situation with Israel, and France has also promised to deliver us 6 Rafales by July 27 this month. So they will also be operationally. So we are basically very well prepared to deal with China in any kind of situation.
So Russia and China have very close relations. Like their trade is almost like $80 billion together.
Yeah, true.
So how is that relationship playing, and why will Russia work with India against China?
Only thing is that India-Russia relationship is too old. You know, in 1962, China attacked India, US and Russia were involved in Cuba missile controversy. At that time, Russia had said that China is a brother, India is a friend. And because of that, the China had the courage to attack India. Now the situation right now is there because Russia has big interest with China, and I must say that credit for that goes to US, which instead of targeting China, started targeting the Russians, which was a wrong policy. I don't accept that. But the situation is there. Now China today is isolated. Russia would like to play safe. Russia will not side with anybody, but Russia has agreed to supply India whatever it wants. And you see, with every day passing of the days of attack, India is gaining in strength. India is gaining in more support. And with that, every day the China is a loser. Who is standing with China today openly? China is only Pakistan is supporting them, and second is Nepal, which will lose its credibility, and that is also because of the Nepali Prime Minister KP Oli, because he is trapped by the Chinese. Besides that, nobody is there. Russia, if they side with China, they will lose India for all times to come, which Russia will never do. And second thing is that if India today, whatever the position of India is there or Indians is there, India is gaining. It is gaining politically, it is gaining diplomatically, and militarily also. India is becoming strong with every passing day, and whatever China loses will be India's gain. I don't think Russia will ever side with China. They will never come into the war. They would not like to lose their reputation, their everything. Trade is one aspect, of course, that is there. And US must change its policy because it had been targeting Russia, but the time is there. This US should have targeted China long back. Trump had tried to do certain things, but now the situation is there. Nobody would come in support of China. I'm sure about that. And Russia will never support China. They will be neutral in the war. That's one thing. But whatever India wants, they will provide it.
So, and just one last question. So, AS400, and what is the cure for AS400 in the Indian Armed Forces? India doesn't have AS400.
You see,
Have AS400. How can India take care? How can India protect its planes from AS400 right now?
You see, the situation is there. India has got its own defense systems like Akash, and Israel has agreed to provide India its advanced defense system that it had been operating or its army was using, and it is installing those systems in India. Of course, on that, China has advantage. But the only thing is that we have our defense systems, and Akash system is there, Israeli system is there. Besides that, this S-400 will be getting in by the end of this year, and for that delay, for the reason the delay in getting S-400 lies with the US, which did not permit India to buy this system because they wanted to impose sanctions against India, but we can't help it. China may have some advantage, but I think we have some capability to counter China on all aspects, whether it's in the air, at the land, and in the sea. So China is a loser. Let us see if China just starts the war. They have to fire once at the Indian armed forces, and they will see the repercussions. They will see what losses accrue to China. And one more thing I will tell you, that people may be thinking that China has bigger army. China has 22 lakhs of army. India has 14.40 lakhs of army. It's not a small army, and it's not that the Chinese can come and walk over India. And especially when you are attacking, you need, in hilly areas, you need 10 to 1. If China attacks, they want 10 to counter one Indian soldier. That's the strategy of the army. And if China is better armed, then they would need at least 8 persons, which China doesn't have. And secondly, the Chinese army, they control law and order. They are involved in Tibet. They are involved in Hong Kong. They are involved in other regions where uprising is there. And already, I think, in Tibet also some uprising is there. So Chinese army is basically a police. And we have an army which has been fighting wars. China fought the last war in 1979 against Vietnam. China brought in an army of 3,20,000 soldiers and with 1,200 tanks. Vietnamese, they had just 1,20,000 soldiers, and most of the soldiers, they were without any tanks. Most of the soldiers, they were carrying swords and spears, and even you can say the rods. And 30,000 Chinese were killed and 20,000 Vietnamese were killed. So that is the situation. If the war today takes place with China, it has to be, if 10 Indian soldiers die, the 100 Chinese will be there. They will die. That take it for sure from my side.
Thank you so much, N.K. Soodji. Today in one session, we completed everything in all gamut of defense relationships. And I think that's your expertise.
Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, and namaskar.
No.